Hey guys, Gluten Nation here. I got a new knife review and I'm pretty stoked about this one. I spent a long time deciding whether or not to buy this knife, and I had several knives in mind. And this is the one that ultimately won me over based on a lot of different factors. And it is the Zero Tolerance 0301. The 0300 series, there's 3 models, I think there's 3. And they're pretty much all the same, other than their G10 scale has a different color. The 0301 is Ranger Green. The 0302 I think might be a little more common, and that one's like a coyote brown type of color. But anyway, the knife itself, it's around a $200 to $230 or $40 knife, depending on where you buy it. So it's a big decision for most people whether to drop that kind of cash on a knife. And when I was kind of thinking about this, I was torn between this and a Strider SNG, possibly an SMF. And what really did it for me, what made the decision, was I could not see, other than the name, that I was getting any more value for those knives than I was for this knife. And I'll try to touch on this. I think this knife could potentially be stronger, just from the way it's built and the heft of it. I think it may actually be a stronger knife, though both are just ridiculously strong for folding knives. I would say this is arguably the strongest production folding knife out there. Again, arguably, because there are Strider fanatics who would argue otherwise. But anyway, I did take it out and test it a little bit, because a knife like this, you can't just, cut a couple pieces of paper and be like, oh, it's a great knife. You spend that extra money to get a really, really strong knife. And so you need to test it. And so I did. I didn't test it super hard. I took it out in the woods and did a few things. And I think I'll actually go ahead and cut to that clip now. The first part, I cut a limb off a tree and just hacked it. And then I carved it into a spear. And then I made sure it would cut a piece of paper. And so I'll show you those clips real quick, and then we'll come back and continue the review, and I'll discuss what it is that I love about this knife. Right now, this is my new favorite knife. So, be right back. So let's see how it does on notebook paper. Oh, I think so. Still sharp. And I just made a freaking spear. Okay guys, so as you can see, the knife can be used pretty rough. And I didn't even have footage. I didn't have time to show you all the stuff I chopped down. I chopped down some bigger dead wood that was much harder than the kind of the green sapling that I cut down with this thing, but it behaved wonderfully. It did the job just perfectly. I cannot complain at all for a folding knife with how it performed. So let me hit some of the stats on this just so you know what we're looking at. It's a S30V blade. It's according to, then this is kind of interesting. Zero Tolerance originally had this listed as about a 3.5, 3 3/4 inch blade, and now on their website they have it listed as 4 1/4. And what that really is, as best I can tell, is they changed how they're measuring it. I can get almost 4 1/4 if I measure from here, right, this spot right here, to the point. If I measure from over here, then it's more like their original measurement. So because it's kind of an organic shape all around, it just depends on how you want to measure it. The actual cutting surface is safely 4 1/4 inches. You can definitely say that. I laid a tape across it and it was easily 4 1/4. So you've got a lot of cutting surface for what folds up to be about 5¼ inches closed, just shy of that actually. So it's not too big to carry really. It is pretty wide, but considering its cutting ability and just straight out awesome hacking ability in the woods, I think it's a pretty good compromise. What you do have is some serious weight. This thing weighs over ½ pound. It's I think about 8.6 ounces. So you're carrying a really heavy knife with you. And I have carried it quite a bit now. For several days, everywhere I went I carried it. I was even carrying it in my pajama pants just to see how it felt with an elastic waistband. You definitely notice it there, but in jeans, you clip this on, you don't really notice. It wasn't a big deal to me. And when I did notice it, I just had that kind of grin like, yeah, I know what's in my pocket. A freaking pocket hatchet, right? So anyway, speaking of the blade, it's got this cool tiger striping thing, and this was a collaboration, the design on this, between Mick Strider and Ken Onion. The Zero Tolerance knives are an offshoot, or owned by, I think, Kershaw is the way to put it. But this blade, if we can get a good view of it, is absolutely awesome. It's that tungsten DLC coated, and then they I guess they bead blast on these tiger stripes. And it's got this kind of organic recurve shape, which I was a little unsure of whether I would like that, actually, just for sharpening reasons. But it's shallow enough, this recurve is right here, that I didn't find it to be that big a deal at all. On a normal crock set type of sharpener, like a Spyderco sharpener or whatever, it was easy, not really a problem. So I like the blade shape. It's a really thick blade this way. I mean, it's thick this way, it's wide this way as well though. So all around a very heavy blade, and in S30V, which we see. Perhaps, yeah, S30V, you can see right there. So, yeah, I love this blade. The blade of the blade, that is. The handle on this side is titanium. It's pretty strong as far as I can tell. I mean, it has this frame lock, it just... The only wiggle that I have sensed in this thing is my own hand moving. It absolutely feels just like a fixed blade whenever you wiggle it like this. Just rock solid. And it is really fast if you give it a little boost. It's assisted opening. You can use the flipper, or you can use, if you're left-handed, it's pretty easy to use the thumb stud. If you're right-handed, it's a little trickier, and that's due to the fact that you've got a steel liner. Let's see if we can get a good bit of light there. Yeah, you've got a steel liner on the G10 side, and no, obviously, on the titanium side. So your thumb stud actually rests a little bit this way, making it easier for lefties for once. Speaking of lefties, you are in luck because you can mount it to all four corners. Almost corners, I should say. If you look at this, for righties, they're in the center, on the top and bottom, the mounts for your clip. For lefties, center here, and then way up here in the corner here, because you got this big nut, which is how you can adjust the tension. By the way, I haven't had to do anything like this, or like adjusting the tension. It was absolutely not necessary. In the hand, this knife is perfectly comfortable, no complaints. That's just that organic shape, just fits the hand perfectly. It's got great jimping, locks into my thumb, very nice. I really have zero complaints about this knife. It is everything I wanted it to be, and it hasn't let me down yet. It's still very sharp even after I've hacked a few little trees down. So if you guys are looking for a super tough knife that is arguably as tough or tougher than a Strider, check out the Zero Tolerance 0300 line. I don't think you'll be disappointed.